If you've been told your glucose is normal, but you're still gaining weight, still waking up at 3 a.m., still exhausted, you're the victim of a missing line on your blood test. It's called the fasting insulin test. It costs $30 and it's the only number that actually tells you what's really happening. You've been told your blood work is normal, glucose is fine, HbA1c is fine. You still feel wrong. That gap between what the result says and what your body is doing is not in your head. It's in what you never measured. Here's the full case in 60 seconds. The villain, a $30 test, the fasting insulin test. That's been published in the peer-reviewed literature since 1975 and is not on your standard blood panel. The victim, you. In Kraft's study of over 14,000 patients, 3/4 of those with completely normal fasting glucose were already showing the insulin pattern behind every metabolic complication. The standard test could not see it. The cover-up? Not one national clinical guideline, not the Australian College of GPs, not the American Diabetes Association, not NICE in the UK, requires fasting insulin as part of a standard diagnostic criteria. 50 years after Kraft, the payoff tonight? What the test measures, what your number means, phase 1 and 2 of recovery, and the 4 doors into repair, not management. But before we go any further, you need the map. Stop this video now, go to the link in the description box and download your free 90-day cellular repair guide. You'll also find it on my website, nineveh.daniel.com. Open it to section 1, page 5. The investigation doesn't move forward until you have your map. And while you're downloading the guide, click in the comments section, booster, if you've been told by your doctor that all your blood tests are fine, but you still don't feel right. So now let's get into the test. There's a test called the fasting insulin test. It costs $30. You can get it at any pathology lab in Australia with a referral from a GP. Here's what it measures. After you've not eaten overnight, usually at least 8 hours, a blood sample is taken and your insulin level is measured. Not your glucose, your insulin. They are different things. Fasting glucose tells you what your blood sugar is doing. Fasting insulin tells you how hard your body is working to keep it there. Here is why that difference matters. Your glucose looks normal, but your insulin is elevated. Your body is working overtime behind the scenes. The system is under pressure that does not show up on a standard blood panel. So what should your fasting insulin actually be? Well, the lab reference range is usually between 2 and 25 milliunits per litre. Now, that range is wide, too wide. The lab range tells you what is common, but not what is ideal. Clinical research suggests the optimal target is below 7. When fasting insulin stays in that range, the liver starts working efficiently again. The 3 a.m. wakings quiet down. The visceral fat manufacture slows. The cells begin to detect a changed environment. If your result comes back at 12, 18, 22, you're within normal lab range, but your body is already working hard. That is information the fasting glucose result alone can never give you. Now, here's why this test matters. Dr. Joseph Kraft ran a 5-hour glucose and insulin test on over 14,000 patients. He didn't just measure glucose, he measured insulin. His finding, 3/4 of the patients with completely normal fasting glucose were already showing abnormal insulin patterns. The problem was already there. The standard test couldn't see it. These people were told they were fine. They weren't. And neither are you if you're only looking at glucose. Kraft called this diabetes in situ. It's present, but it's invisible. And he published this in 1975. The fasting insulin test has been available since 1975, but it's not on your standard blood panel. So why isn't it on your normal standard panel? Well, the clinical guidelines for diabetes diagnosis from the Australian College of General Practitioners, from the American Diabetes Association, from NICE in the UK, none of them require fasting insulin as part of a standard diagnostic criteria. Fasting glucose, HbA1c, oral glucose tolerance test in some cases, fasting insulin, not required. The test exists, it's cheap, it's been published since 1975, but it's simply not in the guidelines. And so most GPs never order it. They're following the standard of care. The standard of care doesn't include it. So once you have your fasting insulin number, what do you do with it? There are 2 phases of recovery. Phase 1 is about removing the flood. Chronically elevated insulin is driven by what you eat and how often you eat. Phase 1 means eating in a window, compressed eating, so your insulin has time to fall between meals. It means shifting what you eat, lower the carbohydrate load that keeps triggering the insulin response. And it means giving your body long enough without a signal to start using its own stored fuel. Phase 1 is where most people start, and for many people, it moves the fasting insulin marker significantly. The guide gives you the starting framework. That's page 10, the 90-day scorecard. Phase 2 is for the woman who's done phase 1, who's reduced the flood, cleaned up the diet, moved the marker, and whose body has not finished recovering. Because phase 1 does remove the flood, but it doesn't really repair what the flood damaged. The years of elevated insulin left structural damage, advanced glycation end products, the glucose that's fused onto your vessel walls, receptor sites that have been desensitized, vascular lining that absorbed the damage without any circuit breaker to protect it. Phase 2 targets that structural repair. There is a specific clinical stem cell nutrition protocol that reactivates the repair systems in your body suppressed during the flood, targeting AGE clearance, receptor site restoration, and vascular lining regeneration. And this is not a pharmacy product. It's not in the standard of care. It's the only product I know of that specifically targets phase 2. If you're in phase 1 and something still feels off, phase 2 might be where your body is waiting. See the guide, page 13, it's there. Okay, so now we come to the 4 doors, your next steps from here. Door 1, we've got the 90-day guide. Download it now. Link is in the description. Door 2 is phase 2. If phase 1 hasn't completed your recovery, page 13 is your next step. The phase 2 protocol is there. Door 3, book a case review. I don't care if your lab result says normal. I care if your body feels normal. If those two things don't match, book the case review. Link is in the description. We stop monitoring the decline and start mapping the repair. And finally, door 4, the insulin heist. That's the full investigation. 12 published receipts proving why this test is not on your panel, why the name insulin resistance is a 90-year-old fraud, and what was actually built to keep this invisible. Link is in the description. So, the fasting insulin test, $30. In the published literature since 1975, 3/4 of Kraft's patients had completely normal blood sugar and were already showing the hidden pattern of insulin dysregulation. The standard test couldn't see it. The test exists, it's cheap, it works, it's not on your panel. It isn't on your panel not because it was wrong, because it was never required. Your blood work said fine. The marker that matters was never measured. Download the guide, get the test, ask for the number, not just whether it is in range. And if your doctor has never ordered it, that's the first question to ask. You're not just getting tired, you're not just getting older. You're a woman whose most important metabolic marker has never been measured. Tonight that changed. I'm Nineveh Daniel, the Cellular Detective. The synthetic insulin trap drops next Tuesday. I'll see you there.